interest should you wish. It is our privilege and tradition each year here at Congregation Beth El to bring martyrology into the personal experience of our dear Fanny Krasner Lebovits. I want you to know, as Fanny comes forward this afternoon to share and to speak, that she will in 2 weeks' time turn 100 years old. That's remarkable in and of itself. But it's also remarkable that Fanny represents to our community, as so many of your families and the generations you remember represent, as so many others who survived the horror of the Holocaust represent, our cherished survivors came through much more than the cruelty and the inhumanity of World War II. As Fanny demonstrates and testifies to, they survived and lived true to the values and sensibilities of their natures. And it is simply an amazing testimony to all survivors, their children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren, that their post-war lives embrace genuine goodness and purpose in response to unparalleled evil. So, Fanny, I want you to know, with all of my admiration and my affection for you, as terrible as the story is that you lived and that you share, I am grateful that you are turning 100 and that you have had so many more years of goodness and love and family for us to celebrate with you. Would you please come forward?
Thank you, Rabbi Schulman and Rabbi Avi, for this opportunity to address our congregation one more time. As I've done in the past, I stand here before you on the holiest day of the year to remember and honor the ones that perished in one of the darkest periods in our history, the Holocaust. Many of you have heard me speak about the details of my Holocaust experience. So this afternoon, I'll try to provide an old lady's reflection on what I view as a full life. The rabbi told you in 2 weeks I'll be, but when I wrote this, in 3 weeks, please God, I'll be 100 years old. I feel I have lived for about only 95 years. The other 5 years, between 1940 and 1945, we were just struggling to exist and survive the most awful, horrific, inhumane conditions. And as a nurse in Libau Ghetto, and in 5 Nazi concentration camps and work camps. I survived death marches and a barge carrying only diseased passengers left drifting and burning in the Baltic Sea. Through a combination of beliefs in the Almighty and a series of miracles, I was one of the fewer than 1.25% of the Latvian Jews that survived the Holocaust. I lost 79 of 81 of my family, including my parents and my baby's sister. But I did manage to save my dear sister Jenny. Unfortunately, my sister Jenny passed away last month in New Jersey, and my heart, of course, is broken. I'm now the only survivor of my once vibrant and happy Libau family, and my own fate lies in God's hands this Yom Kippur. I want to dedicate what I'm talking about to my best friend and my loving sister Jenny. I weighed 59 pounds and suffered from typhus when the war ended, and I was liberated from the barge. I was taken to a filthy, coal shed of a German hospital in Kiel and kept in quarantine. I had absolutely no worldly possessions other than a sheet I was wrapped in. Yet I regard myself as incredibly fortunate. Before and after the Holocaust, I enjoyed a wonderful life, filled with loving family, incredible experiences, and life's normal challenges, which thankfully I have overcome. Each year on Yom Kippur, I painfully recall the words of the Unate Tokev prayer we chanted last week on Rosh Hashanah, that on Rosh Hashanah it's inscribed and on Yom Kippur it's sealed. How many shall pass away and how many shall be born? Who shall live and who shall die? Who shall reach the end of this day and who shall not? My mind rushes to my deceased husband, my parents, my dearest little sister Libele, the other members of my family who perished in the Holocaust, those others whom I witnessed die and disappear, and the millions who were killed at the hand of the Nazis, merely because of their faith. I also recall my friends and family who have since passed on, and of course, my darling dear Jenny. At these times, I wonder about my own mortality and the year ahead, and I contemplate why I have been blessed with such long life. Why have I experienced the highs and lows through almost a century? Is there a reason that I was born Jewish, was almost annihilated as a Jew, and have been fortunate enough to be the matriarch of a large Jewish family? What is the responsibility I have to myself and my family and my community and humankind for these experiences? I believe that there is a divine reason for everything that occurs. We just may not understand it in the moment. I did not speak of my Holocaust experiences for more than 30 years. And then, on one of my many visits to Israel, I decided that I had an obligation to describe my story, the cruelty I witnessed, the miracles I've experienced, and the life lessons I've learned. To encourage you to be kind to others, to recognize our special obligation to each other as Jews, and use their intellectual and physical resources to ensure that Jewish households of all denominations, types, and creed should never forget the Holocaust, in the hopes that these atrocities will never again be inflicted on the Jewish people or on others. And so, my mission over the past 40 years has been to educate and influence as many people as possible through lectures, speeches, articles, and a book. I don't want my experiences and beliefs to die with me. This was a motivation for me to document my memoirs in 2019 in a book, Memories, Miracles, and Meaning. I'm alive today because I have a purpose. I have a purpose to broadcast what I would like to be my legacy, to teach others what it is to be human, to teach everybody kindly that there should be no hatred whatsoever. Our differences in color, beliefs, heritage, political viewpoints, or sexual preferences. We are all born in God's image. My mission has been to ensure that the Holocaust is never forgotten and never repeated. I've had an unbelievable life, a wonderful and loving childhood in Libau, a beautiful town on the Baltic Sea in Latvia. As a nurse during the Holocaust, I tried to help others, as I've done ever since. After the war, I worked for the United Nations Relief Rehabilitation Administration in Germany. Later, when I got to Sweden, I worked for the World Jewish Congress in Stockholm, lobbying for and then celebrating the formation of a Jewish homeland. And still later, I was in business in South Africa. I moved to San Diego in 1979 with my loving husband, who unfortunately passed away 9 months later. I'm so grateful for the honor of being an American and having the freedom to express myself and the opportunity to have a meaningful life. I remarried a wonderful former US naval commander, and together we enjoyed more than a decade of joyful experiences. I have, thank God, 4 children, 9 grandchildren, and 14 great-grandchildren. When I never believed I would be physically able to conceive based on the conditions I survived. Most of my family now live in Southern California. They are all devoted to Israel and our family and to their Jewish heritage. And this is my personal victory over Hitler. And at almost 100, perhaps my final miracle. I tell my grandchildren, when we are flat on our backs, we only look up. What I mean is that when things don't go as you wish and you are feeling down, look towards the future with optimism and drive. I also mean look towards God and understand that this is His will and in the grand scheme of our life. Your current situation, no matter how difficult, is the exact prescription for the next step of your growth and progress. There will be light from this darkness, so you go and find it. I'm regularly asked how I survived the Holocaust and carried on. Was it my resilience and perseverance? Was it my faith and drive to move forward that saved me? I actually think it was that I never lost hope. Those that did died. Where there is hope, there is faith. And where there is faith, miracles can happen. The first time I was asked where my inner strengths and strong beliefs come from, but I had to pause for a moment. But then it came to me. It comes from my remarkable upbringing and the desire to uphold Jewish tradition and moral values that my parents and my grandparents taught me. values I hope I have passed on to my children, my grandchildren, and my great-grandchildren. At a young age, I was steeped in the concept of Zionism, Jews living in a land they could call home, tied to our ancestral history, tradition, and to beliefs. I was part of a Jewish youth group in Libau. I worked for Israel's formation in Sweden, meeting and supporting those who went on to become the founders and teachers of Israel, including Ben-Gurion. The passage of the United Nations resolution authorizing the formation of a Jewish state, and a year later the formation of Israel, were some of the highlights in my life. I have worked tirelessly for more than 40 years for Hadassah Hospital, a large non-sectarian medical facility in Israel. I've visited Israel more than 36 times, feeling totally connected to the land itself. And at most speaking engagements, I end with a heartfelt comment that in those dark days of Nazi internment, we looked to the left for help, and there was no one. We looked to the right, and nobody would help us. No one cared for our well-being. We were nothing to anyone. Now, we as Jews don't have to look. We have Israel standing behind us. Without a strong Israel, history will repeat itself. For all Jews globally, always remember this truth. Based on my life experiences, my message to you, my dear Beth family, is to have faith and believe in miracles, to recognize that family is your most valuable asset, so protect, nurture, and influence your children. Your impact lasts for generations. I ask you to show compassion and kindness for others and bring them joy, and stand up for moral causes and against hate, and always, always support Israel. Never again should hate drive human behavior to devalue human life. Never again should the world stand by and observe atrocities. It's devastating to me to observe what is currently taking place in Eastern Europe and other locations where basic human rights are obliterated by political ambitions or fear. And I say that hate is never good and love is never bad. Let us go on living with a shared commitment to remember the past, to joyfully live the present, and to trust the future. Thank you again for your interest in listening to me today. I wish you Gmar Chatima Tova. May you all be sealed in the book of life and enjoy a meaningful year filled with kindness and good health. Shana Tova. A little bit not so steady.